portraying a calm and compassionate father figure on television. Andy Griffith's character in The Andy Griffith Show resonated with many as the ideal American dad. Sheriff Andy Taylor, with his patience and warmth, became a symbol of morality, often sharing wisdom and solving problems with ease. This image of stability and love, however, contrasts sharply with the reality of Griffith's own family life. Emotional distance and personal struggles marked his relationships, revealing a narrative filled with heartbreak that could not be resolved with a simple punchline or a fade to black. The complexities of his marriage and the challenges faced by his children paint a different picture of the man behind the beloved character. The story of Andy Griffith's family is one of both triumph and tragedy, reflecting the often hidden struggles that lie beneath the surface of public personas. Exploring these themes offers a deeper understanding of the man and the legacy he left behind. In 1949, Andy Griffith married Barbara Bray Edwards, and their marriage reflected the wholesome family values he would later portray on screen. They adopted 2 children, a son named Andy Samuel Griffith Jr., known as Sam, and a daughter named Dixie. To the outside world, they seemed like a model American family, with a successful entertainer and his devoted wife raising their children in a loving environment. However, behind the scenes, their family life was not as perfect as it appeared. The adoption of Sam and Dixie was intended to create a stable and nurturing home, but tensions soon arose, particularly between Andy and his son. As Griffith's fame grew, so did the pressure on the family, revealing cracks in their relationships that fame could not heal. The image of a perfect father and husband began to fade, especially as Sam faced ongoing struggles. The challenges they faced highlighted the complexities of family life, showing that even those who seem to have it all can experience difficulties that are often hidden from public view. Growing up as the adopted son of Andy Griffith, Sam faced unique challenges that shaped his identity. The immense popularity of his father, known for his role as a beloved television father, created an impossible standard for Sam. Constant comparisons to O.P. Taylor, the character played by Ron Howard, made it difficult for him to forge his own identity. O.P. was seen as the perfect child, embodying innocence and charm in a loving father-son relationship. These comparisons were not just casual remarks. They were ingrained in the cultural consciousness, and Sam felt the weight of them deeply. As he navigated his childhood, Sam began to see himself as a failure, believing he could never live up to the ideal that O.P. represented. This perception led to a growing sense of alienation and self-doubt. He often felt misunderstood and unseen within his own family, as if he were merely a shadow of a fictional character rather than being appreciated for his true self. The emotional rift between him and his father widened, creating a complex relationship marked by unspoken struggles. These identity issues planted seeds of emotional instability that would follow Sam throughout his life, leaving him to grapple with feelings of inadequacy and the longing for acceptance. By his teenage years, Sam was already showing signs of inner turmoil that would soon manifest in destructive behavior. He began using drugs and alcohol as a way to cope with his emotional pain and the weight of his perceived inadequacies. What began as experimentation quickly developed into a full-blown addiction, as Sam became increasingly dependent on substances to numb his feelings of rejection and low self-worth. His parents, especially Andy, made repeated efforts to help him, sending him to rehabilitation centers, providing financial support, and trying to reconnect emotionally. His sister Dixie also did what she could to support him, often standing by his side when others distanced themselves. But addiction is a relentless force, and despite these interventions, Sam continued to spiral downward. His repeated relapses, combined with emotional volatility, left the family heartbroken and exhausted. Andy, who prided himself on being in control and solving problems, both on-screen and off, was now confronted with a crisis he couldn't fix. It revealed a painful truth that even deep parental love, wealth, and fame cannot always rescue someone from the grip of addiction. Despite his personal demons, Andy Griffith worked hard to build a life of his own. He initially found success as an actor, gaining fame for his role in The Andy Griffith Show, which showcased his talent and charm. However, behind the scenes, he faced challenges that affected his career and personal life. His battles with addiction and emotional instability made it difficult for him to maintain consistent employment or build lasting professional relationships. The stress from these inner struggles often spilled over into his work, leading to missed opportunities and projects that did not come to fruition. Over time, his ability to sustain a stable living situation also deteriorated. He experienced periods of couch surfing, relying on friends or family for shelter, or staying in temporary arrangements. What had once been a promising young man with the backing of a famous and wealthy career eventually became a figure adrift, struggling to hold on to the basic elements of independence. His life became a stark contrast to the cheerful, orderly world of Mayberry. Andy's story serves as a painful reminder that addiction, identity issues, and emotional trauma can affect anyone, regardless of background or privilege, and that the consequences can be heartbreaking, even for the families of beloved cultural icons. In 1992, Sam Griffith faced a significant turning point in his life when he was arrested in North Hollywood on serious domestic violence charges. This incident drew considerable media attention as it involved a physical altercation with his wife, leading to tragic consequences, including a miscarriage and a broken finger. The details surrounding the event are often unclear, with various reports providing conflicting accounts and limited public information. Ultimately, Sam pleaded no contest to the charges, resulting in 3 years of unsupervised probation. This legal issue marked a profound moment of personal failure for him, compounding his struggles with addiction and emotional instability. The fallout from this incident not only highlighted his inner turmoil, but also revealed the collateral damage inflicted on those closest to him. For Andy Griffith, who was widely regarded as a public father figure known for his wisdom and gentle demeanor, witnessing his son's life unravel in such a public manner must have been particularly painful. It created a stark contrast between the idealized image of fatherly perfection and the harsh reality of his son's challenges. Unfortunately, the 1992 incident marked the beginning of a troubling pattern in Sam's life. After serving his probation, he found himself caught in a cycle of legal troubles that seemed unending. His struggles with addiction led to multiple arrests, including driving under the influence and possession of illegal substances. Each arrest was a painful reminder of how far he had strayed from the promise he once held. Shoplifting incidents, and even a serious situation involving the discharge of a firearm during a domestic dispute further highlighted the chaos that had taken over his life. These legal issues not only tarnished his public image, but also strained his relationships with family members. Many of them had grown weary from years of disappointment and heartbreak, leading to emotional distance. The once promising son of a beloved American icon became known more for his failures than his potential. His life became a stark illustration of how addiction can lead to a downward spiral, creating a reality filled with chaos and isolation. The cycle of self-destruction seemed almost impossible to break, leaving behind a legacy of lost opportunities and unfulfilled dreams. As he entered the final chapter of his life, Sam Griffith was no longer just a man struggling with addiction. He was a man haunted by regret. The years of estrangement from his father weighed heavily on him, and according to those close to the family, he became increasingly reflective and sorrowful about the damage he had caused. In a final act of vulnerability, Sam wrote a heartfelt letter to his father, Andy Griffith. In it, he didn't ask for forgiveness in a traditional sense. He pleaded for something deeper. He asked to be seen, to be heard, and to be accepted, not just as a son, but as a human being and a friend. It was a desperate and sincere attempt to bridge a chasm years in the making, but tragically, the letter was never delivered. Whether it was lost, intercepted, or simply never mailed remains unclear, but the result was the same. Andy never received Sam's plea, and Sam never got the chance to speak the words that had weighed on his heart. The missed opportunity became a symbol of the silence and distance that had come to define their relationship, a silence that could never be broken once Sam passed away in 1996 at the age of 37. Throughout his life, Andy Griffith maintained an almost obsessive level of privacy regarding his children, especially when it came to Sam. Unlike many Hollywood stars who paraded their families in magazines and red carpets, Andy kept his personal life tightly sealed. His daughter, Dixie, reportedly never even visited the set of The Andy Griffith Show, despite its cultural significance and her father's starring role. There are virtually no public photos of Sam as a child or adult, an unusual choice for a figure of Andy's fame and stature. This extreme privacy could be interpreted in several ways. Perhaps Andy wanted to shield his children from the immense pressures of growing up in the spotlight. But others have suggested a darker possibility that Andy, a man so deeply invested in the image of perfection, may have been ashamed of the personal failures that didn't align with his public persona. Whatever the reason, the result was emotional distance and isolation. His children were ghosts to the public, and possibly even to him, hidden away from a world that adored their father, but knew almost nothing of the painful realities within his own home. This intentional separation from his children, whether out of love, shame, or fear, left scars that could never fully heal, and relationships that were never fully mended. As Sam grew older, his troubles became more visible and persistent, leading him to believe that his father, Andy Griffith, was ashamed of him. This belief, whether it was real or imagined, became a deep wound that Sam never fully healed. He saw his father's stoicism and emotional reserve as signs of judgment rather than protection. For a son already grappling with feelings of inadequacy, this perceived rejection intensified his sense of worthlessness. Andy, a man shaped by a different era, often viewed emotional suppression as a form of strength. His attempts to set boundaries and shield himself from the chaos of Sam's life were likely well-meaning, but often felt like cold detachment to Sam. What he needed was validation, compassion, and connection, but instead, he encountered silence and distance. This lack of emotional support led to a cycle of shame that became a self-fulfilling prophecy, pushing him deeper into substance abuse, legal troubles, and profound emotional isolation. Sam was not merely battling addiction. He was fighting against the painful belief that he had failed to gain the approval of the one person he sought it from the most. In a tragic turn of events, Sam Griffith's life came to an end in his Hollywood home, where he was found slumped over a desk at the young age of 38. The details surrounding his death remain largely undisclosed, yet the scene painted a vivid picture of isolation. Alone in a quiet room, he embodied the deep pain and loneliness that had shadowed him throughout his life. His passing was not a peaceful conclusion filled with closure or reconciliation. Instead, it marked the end of a long struggle with estrangement, addiction, and unresolved issues. There were no final conversations to bring comfort, no apologies exchanged, and no understanding reached. Sam's life had been characterized by disconnection, weighed down by regrets, and a yearning for relationships that had long since frayed. His death served as a heartbreaking reminder of a life that once held promise and love but ultimately succumbed to emotional turmoil and an unfulfilled quest for meaning. The silence that surrounded him at the end echoed the solitude he had faced for years, leaving behind a story of lost connections and unhealed wounds. When Sam Griffith was laid to rest, his father, Andy Griffith, was notably absent from the ceremony. Official reasons given pointed to health concerns, which seemed plausible considering Andy's age, and ongoing medical issues. However, those familiar with the family dynamics and the public speculated that the absence might signify something much deeper and more painful. By the time of Sam's passing, it appeared that Andy had emotionally distanced himself from his son, possibly to the extent that attending the funeral would have felt insincere or overwhelmingly painful. For many observers, this absence was seen as a stark indication that the bond between father and son had been irreparably damaged. Some interpreted it as a final act of a father unable to confront the profound sorrow and guilt of witnessing his son's struggles. Regardless of the underlying reasons, Andy's absence at Sam's funeral left a lasting impression, serving as a haunting reminder of a relationship marked by distance rather than closeness, and illustrating how unresolved emotional issues can linger within a family, even extending to the end of life. Despite the passage of time, the relationship between Andy Griffith and his son Sam remained fraught with unresolved issues. Andy Griffith passed away in 2012, nearly 2 decades after Sam's death, yet the emotional distance between them was never bridged. Their lives were marked by a profound rift that left no room for reconciliation or healing. When Andy died, he was laid to rest in Roanoke Island, North Carolina, a location that held deep personal significance for him, far from the bright lights of Hollywood. In contrast, Sam was buried at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in California, a cemetery famous for housing many celebrities, but lacking any meaningful connection to the Griffith family legacy. The physical distance of thousands of miles between their graves serves as a stark reminder of the emotional divide that existed during their lives. While Andy found peace among his southern roots, Sam's resting place on the opposite coast symbolizes the enduring separation between a father and son who never managed to reconnect. The absence of public acknowledgement of their pain leaves a haunting silence that echoes through their final resting places. The expiration of Andy Griffith's life reveals a stark contrast between his on-screen persona and his real-life experiences. While he portrayed a loving father and wise sheriff, his actual family life was marked by emotional challenges and distance. His relationships with his children were complicated, often overshadowed by personal struggles that did not align with the idealized image he presented to the world. This duality highlights the pressures faced by public figures, where the expectations of being a role model can clash with personal realities. The narrative of Griffith's family is not just one of sadness, but also of resilience, showcasing the complexities of human relationships. Understanding these dynamics allows for a more nuanced view of Griffith, reminding us that behind every public figure lies a private life filled with both joy and sorrow. The legacy he left behind is a testament to the intricate balance between public admiration and personal hardship, inviting reflection on the true nature of family and the challenges that often remain